So who are we waiting for, Minaj? Anybody?
Sure.
One more.
We only need
Yeah,
one more.
Minaj.
I need some, some ground floor. Oh, good. Air distance. Oh, the oil filter. When you get a chance to review this, I had Tony put together an RFP for proposal. I gave a copy to you, so you got a copy when you review it. When you review it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
did we forget to put the, meeting, open the meeting on notice? I can't access it.
Okay. If we, probably because we made a change.
Okay, when am I doing with this?
What's that?
When am I doing with this one?
Just go over.
Carl, just the one signature?
And match
Yes,
it up.
and then I'll get Katie.
Just make sure that piece can match up on the notice, and Lois has to sign.
Oh, okay.
Give it to Kate.
Is it for the limit? And there's an limit coming?
Have to go through
Okay.
contractual.
Okay.
This one is, see, so just give me, take it back to complete.
Okay, there were, yeah, a lot of that stuff was going up there with contract negotiations, so that's understood.
Minaj will be here any second.
Okay, contract. So
This
anything else?
is my school copy. Now, they're gonna send out one. They're just planning on taking it back.
I know, and the mayor sort of advised the end of the month, they have to close. The one, first he said they were gonna try to close it by the end of the month. The other guy said, this was 2 months ago, he said, he's gotta let us know, but you can call him now to find out, is he ready to go? He's got hiring on it, so he's, yeah, I didn't see his money. He said people are putting the money together. Come May 1, if they don't have it, they don't have it set.
2 years.
You able to get on that?
I'm gonna put a resolution together so we can meet it, so
Okay.
they're putting the money.
All right.
Because, you know, they're just.
Well, I gotta get, I need the money.
And we, on the one, we have to cut the line that were issued, so it's all clean. There's no reason not to. And they haven't updated the journals or anything with it. So I'll just put one of the resolutions at the next meeting. If they haven't mailed it down, so yeah.
No, we're live streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
From where? Here? Oh.
That's gonna be 5. Right?
Yes.
So
Okay, no.
for the contract stuff.
My fault, sorry.
These are all,
This is contract too.
yeah,
Okay. Good night.
yeah, they're
Night.
all those.
Good night.
Night, Martha.
Are these all requests from people tonight?
Copies.
Okay.
You ready for this one?
Huh?
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Thank you.
Huda, we should make you stay for this
Thank
training
you.
since we have to.
It's,
We have an extra seat.
yeah, we have another one coming up for manager.
Oh, okay. We should have done it all
Not
at once.
manager, I mean,
We'll get it though.
To save you a trip.
Oh, so I get to sit through both?
You get to sit through.
Oh,
Hey,
great.
this is my second.
It's
This is
different.
the third.
Hey, Jen.
This is good.
Yeah. Long time.
This is hot.
4, right?
Let me see.
Yeah, all right.
She's proposing it, I
All
just
right.
wanted you to know.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought what he would do is send us a copy of what he's going to do, and then,
He's brought, because the list that the tax collector provides is much more detailed than that. It has it broken out, with interest and all the way across the board. So she showed me her list. It looks
well, I
nothing
know
like that list.
I know in the one list that was a lot more costly.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple on there that were taken care of.
Right, well,
That's why I didn't have him touch that list.
well, the two lists, there's some discrepancies. So, I'm sure she'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
We have a revised here,
Over there?
the bold,
Mm-hmm.
The bold.
Now the red lights aren't on, still on?
Not on here because there was some interference with the microphone that's built into that. So we're gonna have different microphones put in, so
Okay.
that'll take care of it. The switch is over there.
Hmm?
On
So
the
the
wall
switch is
there.
on the wall, so we just have to kill it and go executive session.
We
Hopefully
need,
not forget to kill it.
we need to make sure too that we label it so people don't think it's like the light switch.
Well, John's gonna, he didn't wanna label it yet because,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't want people finding it.
Yeah, and it won't broadcast if the meeting isn't scheduled. So,
But it'll still record.
right, it makes a recording with the company there.
Mike, could've just broadcast this for everybody and you save you about 35 or 40 more trips. Apologize, he should be here in a second. Well, Tom, can we apply college rules, and if we don't have a quorum at 10 after, we get to leave?
It's a forfeit.
That's right. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, so we took the course already. What's that? So we took the course already. I did, but we need a quorum, so.
The quorum is the course quorum?
Well, the meeting is advertised for 5 o'clock.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public
Good night.
Meetings Act,
Thank you.
NJSA 10:4-6, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 12th, 2018, and revised via email on April 12th, April 20th, 2018.
Thanks, Katie. Roll call.
Mayor Coles?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Miller?
Here.
Committeeman Lichtenstein? Norris Committeeman Ackerman? Committeeman Delia?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Let's turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Housekeeping matter. If I'll have Tom, Michael, and Manoj sign in, please.
Yes, absolutely.
As we know, Committeeman
We have to
Stein
sign this.
and Mayor
Yes.
Coles have already participated. Yes, Tom is also going to garner the credit. First piece, as usual, I start with is a quick idea for you as to the financial position of the Ocean County Municipal Youth Assurance Fund. All good news.
Kevin, would you like a copy
Yes,
for
please,
your
for
minutes?
the record. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely, understood. Line 9 is the key line, statutory surplus. This $13.2 million is unencumbered by any claims or any claims anticipated, but not yet logged, incurred but not yet reported. There's always a lag with respect to certain lines of coverage, particularly liability statute. There are some limitations, but folks can report claims sometime down the road once they have their litigation plan together, so to speak. Surplus has grown modestly, but if you look at line 8, middle of the page, in December there was a grant back to the members, a dividend of nearly $1.4 million. The other thing that's remarkable, for fund year 2017, the Ocean Fund reduced its budget by $1 million. It maintained its head above water, if you will. We did not reduce the budget for 2017 and look to recoup it. Didn't need to recoup it in 2018, and already through the first quarter we're tracking well with $13.3 $13.3 million of statutory surplus. We're looking at, again, what the budget will look like for 2019, and if all things hold as they're holding right now. We have some headwinds. We may be maybe not looking at a $1 million reduction, but maybe some relief once again. We do fully anticipate to be managing the budget well within the municipal budget cap, with the 2% that we've been better than managing to over the last several years. So the financial picture is exceedingly healthy on a local level. The statewide system known as the Municipal Excess Liability Joint Insurance Fund, MLJIF for short, has over $121 million statutorily in the surplus position. This is 19 affiliate funds. All funds are facing the very good problem of not taking too much money on a going forward basis just to return it 3 years later. So we'll keep everybody apprised of that process through the summer months and into the fall as we begin to develop budgets with our actuary, looking at our loss picture, our loss history and our loss picture, and then taking it out from there into the budget making cycle of looking at models, introducing it, and then approving it in November. One of the key headwinds remains public officials' employment practices liability. First, I'll talk about employment practices liability very briefly. Although our carrier or intermediary is not RT Pro Exec, we co-brand this article. Risk Insights is a periodical that we publish. This edition in February had to do with employment practices liability and the impact of movements like Me Too and others. I don't know if you heard today. It will continue the discussion. Not that it needs to be what was spurred on again, but Bill Cosby was convicted on all 3 counts today. Certainly that will have its impact on emotions, its impact perhaps ultimately on litigation. It's not an emboldenment process, but folks now will feel more energy in terms of fighting for their rights or fighting for their dignity, fighting for respect. What this does have an impact on is ultimately the cost of employment practices liability coverage. We've been very fortunate to maintain fairly flat increases over the last 10 years. This line of coverage used to be fully self-insured by the system, and when it was, we were beginning to hemorrhage in terms of the statewide surplus. That surplus was nearly reduced to zero as far as our excess MEL was concerned. We brought the coverage into the commercial market about 10, 11 years ago. That surplus now for the MEL, the statewide excess carrier, is about $21, $22 million. But again, employment practices, we believe, because of all of the stirred up emotions and stirred up litigation, will remain a headwind for some time to come. A line of coverage that will be very, very difficult and challenging, probably for quite some time to come. Every 2-year crossroads, Mayor Yehuda alluded to training that will happen here at Lakewood for your managers and supervisors, right on point with respect to anti-discrimination, anti-harassment. You'll be required to update your personnel policy and procedure. Your police command staff will be required to attend training. We partner with Police Academy and the Ocean County Chiefs Association to conduct that training. Probably will be 2 or 3 months from now. The deadline is October 1st. There's very few additional suggestions or recommendations and mandates as far as personnel policy and procedure that are being made this year. Fortunately, the law in New Jersey is robust already. Very little to do year to year in New Jersey. Other states are quite far behind, but left coast, east coast, we seem to be ahead of the nation when it comes to protecting citizens' rights and employee rights, which is a good thing, but it has a result of being a bad thing at Portland. There's a good deal of litigation against us as an employer. So we'll be talking to your managers and supervisors, hopefully continuing a good conversation, positive results with respect to how employees are treated, and quite frankly, in accordance with your policies, what they expect and what's expected of you in terms of your policies. In terms of the PowerPoint presentation, the key ingredient in the PowerPoint presentation, I'll give a copy to Harold as well. You're in good hands with Harold and with Stephen. They're on our defense panel. Land use issues are paramount everywhere in the state of New Jersey. We're pretty well packed in. We have a diverse set of citizens. We have a diverse set of needs, a diverse set of wants. It creates an environment where folks either don't want something in their backyard or they do want something in their backyard. Keep it as simple as that. The core, if you take it at your own pace of the seminar that begins to be conducted in November at the League of Municipalities, has to do with land use. The back end has to do with cyber security. You have an IT department here. We believe that in terms of the size, sophistication, the township of Lakewood, you're more on the leading edge, maybe not perfect. The criminals are more perfect than us each and every day, unfortunately. But that's the battle line that's drawn. You have an IT department. We're sure that they understand everything about firewalls and encryption and data security.
Put in all new firewalls, switching, security.
Right, and that's not an evolving process, that's an everyday process. And the simple matter is because the criminal world, the dark side of the planet, is more advanced than us on any given day. And every time we figure something out, they figure out the solution to jump the wall. So that's the back end. Again, in the middle, there are a host of PowerPoint slides that give you the background in terms of property rights in New Jersey. It's not very detailed. The case studies themselves, there's 10 of them, they're not very detailed. But the cases are labeled at the end of the day. So if you have any questions, certainly the questions are not of me. I'm not an attorney of any kind, let alone a land use attorney. But you have your municipal attorney that you should rely on because in the event you are sued, the advice you follow needs to come from the municipal attorney, not a good brother-in-law attorney who you might respect and admire. His or her advice, family advice, legal advice might be very solid, but it's not the advice you would use in testimony as being relied upon as you make
Should call
decisions.
Michael Collins to help.
No, Mike, I think, is taking the fifth at this point. So where that leads, no one knows, but we'll be talking about it probably next year.
Long time.
Long time. This is the annual report. I alluded to the fact that the working together of the Melgis system, now I believe in its 33rd, 34th year of operation, is in very solid financial position. The key ingredients are depicted in very nice graph form right in the middle, starting on page 4. We start at a lower base in terms of your cost factors, but where we really don't rest is with respect to employee training. The Mel Safety Institute, which is really a training academy or safety university that you are part owners of, was formed now over 15 years ago. It's conducted over 17,500 classes, probably by this time in 2018, now over 18,000 classes. I think even more stunning, more breathtaking is the fact that we train over 30,000 students a year face-to-face, and now online another 20,000 to 25,000 a year. So over 50,000 times a year in the MEL system, someone's receiving a message to hopefully keep them out of serious trouble. And it's everything from training that's required by law, by POSHA, to office training. We don't neglect any department in terms of municipal government. So if it's proper loading of electrical cords or use of electrical extensions to lockout, tagout, serious issues like confined space, camp counseling, all those. We recently met with the Township of Lakewood to bring another level or to raise the bar in terms of the recreation programs here, in terms of risk management tools to be instituted to the fullest degree. So again, we look at our losses, but we don't rely on any department having forever good luck. We look at global statistics, we look at our local statistics, and build a brand of safety that it really countrywide is second to none. So we hope you remain committed to the process yourselves and to the management that have this in their daily lives. We know, again, in meeting with Thomas and with Michael, in terms of a couple of elements most recently, that the intent is to install best practices and adhere to best practices. I'll conclude by saying we'll be back very shortly to conduct managers and supervisors. It's our pleasure to do so, and unless there's any questions, particularly land use, they would be for Harold, but anything else tonight, if you have any question or two, let me know what's in the Smith's sign-in sheet. Good.
There you go, that's for you. Thank you very much.
If I sign it again, do I get double credit?
What's that?
If I sign it again, do I get double credit?
No, somebody asked in the office, if you go out and they're there again, say, well, you know, it's not my decision, but I'm trying to get an increase in the credit.
As long as there's a credit, that
I'm
helps.
trying to, I said, look, if you get 100% participation, why can't we give them a sweetener as well? But, you know, we're spending millions of dollars with the reinsurer, and we haven't indexed it at all for inflation. It's been the same since 12, 15 years ago. So. Well, anyway,
Thank you, sir.
that's my thing. Enjoy the rest of the night, folks.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Tom, I'll flip it to you.
All right, I guess since Ed's here, we'll go to,
Let's make him wait.
okay.
Oh, I'll eat something.
Yeah, grab something, then we'll start.
Number 2 on the, on number C.
No color.
No color. It's,
We had been talking for a long time about developing more parks and stuff, and we had the conversation sometime last year. I'd really like to be able to move ahead this year and at least make the designation of where it's gonna be, decide what properties we may need to take, or obtain, I should say. And also decide if the parcels are big enough where we might be able to find some space to put a couple of schools as well. So that's why we asked you to come in and see what we can come up with.
This is what we've spoken about last time a little bit, was the Triangle Park area, or Triangle area. The items, the area in green, well, the area that's outlined by yellow is, by my calculations, roughly 14 acres. Okay? Now, if you look to the,
in green?
well, the area within the yellow
Oh, within the yellow, okay.
is roughly 14 acres. The green in that area is currently township owned. All the orange is privately owned. Okay? The purple that's highlighted would be if we could get the people who own the orange to swap out for the same zone property and the same size property. Those are the purple properties, the properties that we own, that, you know, we could swap out for potentially if they like that idea, and put the park in there. Or that would be, you know, again, about 14 acres for a possible park. The sheet that I just handed you now just shows, you know, who the owner of the property is and the proposed swaps. And it would be, again, it would be like zoning to like zoning, exact same size for exact same size. In some cases, it's actually, you know, coming out to the property owner's benefit. If you look at block 4, that 88, 488, the sections in orange there, that's all owned by Krupnik, I believe. And the purple piece right below is what we would potentially swap out to them. Exchange, yes. So he's getting a consolidated piece instead of one that's broken up and you can't do as much with it. It's literally right across the street from where it's located. Okay, so everything's right in the same area. In many cases, they're actually getting a little better piece because it's not, it may be a corner piece now as opposed to being, you know, surrounded on 2 sides by other properties or 3 sides. So that, yeah, that's an area that if you also look up in this area here, there's tremendous growth going on, a lot of duplexes going up there. We have a whole townhouse development going in just to the west, and this whole area is going to be developed at some point. So that, you know, to me, is a good area. to try and target.
What do you think, Nash?
Is it a great idea?
Right?
Yeah.
All right. How do we go about contacting these folks and seeing if they're willing to make the swap? I want to do this quickly because I'd like to maybe have Ed come back in July, which would be enough time to at least get a feeling for whether or not folks are willing to do it.
Good enough to put together a letter to each individual.
I'll provide to Harold the owner's names and address and whatnot. Most of the owners, there's really not that many pieces. This is all from here. Charlie Schwab, Sidney Krupnick, Sidney owns 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And
We can pack the deal with Sydney.
Why don't you invite Sydney to come in and talk to them about
I was just on the phone with him the other day for the sales tonight.
talk to them about the potential of the Krupnick Park.
And you've got a list of owners and you've got comments, that's where you have Sydney and Schwab. The owners are not, is it an entity of Sydney's, is that what that is?
yes, yeah,
Whiting Pines Realty,
Whiting Pines
Mark
is
Properties,
yes, that's the.
those are Krupnick things,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
then Schwab is
this
Raffle.
is Charles right here.
Yeah, there's only a handful of people, so let's reach out to them personally, ask them to come in, tell them that we're looking to develop a park for the residents,
Right.
see if they'd be willing to talk to us. I'd rather do that than have to either come down
Well,
or
do
go
is
up on the
I'll call, making a point, make sure we're on the same page, and when they come in, we'll both do it.
Okay, yeah, we can, show them, so.
Yeah.
Title, the township, is the township owns properties by, tax foreclosure?
The ones that we currently own?
Yeah, the ones that are shown,
I'll see
well,
if we
the
can-
ones we're gonna swap out, forget the ones we currently own,
The ones that we're gonna swap out, I'll take a look and see if I can see if they're on the Garzo issue list.
That's one,
Yeah.
the Garzo is one, and then just the idea that we've had some strays out there that was.
All right, let's confirm that first. Let's get them in here as quickly as possible and see if we can really get moving. There's only a few people to contact, so it's not like it's a list of 100 people we have to write.
Yeah, I think it's really.
And then if you can, as the mayor says something about some property for schools, I think we have something over here, if you wanna check that. I know we taking an area over here for a park, but there's some property over here I think we own, and we could use for schools.
I'll check, but I think that's where your existing, coverage is, in that area.
It's not there anymore.
You sold that.
No, we
Sold
sold
it.
it.
Oh, we sold that? Okay.
Yeah. They left.
Okay, so, yeah, I'll see what we still own out there. Is there any particular part of town that you're looking for schools?
I think that the biggest challenge we're gonna face in the next 10 years is location for schools. Don't wanna lose the industrial park rateable base. I'd like to scatter them around the whole town. I mean, Oak Street has really turned into like a school zone. I don't know if there's any more property out there, but anywhere, what's an average parcel? 2 acres?
2 acres.
So.
We used to do bigger, but schools can't,
Well, again, 2 to 4 acres. I mean, I would love for the school to have room to grow, rather than
What
have.
we've learned is, and it's what you see in Oak Street, which is why the Oak Street school zone area was a phenomenal idea, is they're scattered at PTA nights, and they use each other's parking lots. So this enables them to all have, more parking. So it used to be 4 acres we needed for school and all that. Now we see we can actually get a good school size on a 2 acre because they work with each
As
other.
long as we have.
In the area,
But
correct.
I think I'd like to make that a priority for us, is to identify property we own, and let's try and set aside some spots for future schools, because I don't want to sell property for housing if I don't have any place to put the kids.
There was, an area off of Shore Rock that we talked about at one time, that it's owned by the New Jersey Conservation Association. Now, I don't know what their rules are about.
They did that as tight as they could on the,
Say, if we gave them twice what they're potentially give us, would that?
I don't know if we have that together.
Actually, in this area, at Shore Rock, we actually do.
Yeah, there's some,
We own quite a bit across the street here.
Right, we own across the street.
And in here we own as well. Now, they own the vast majority.
Yeah, the 150 acres was put into preservation before I got on the committee.
So there's no chance.
I don't wanna go to war out there.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, that would be.
But if we have property
that
there,
area, yeah.
Although,
The property
Shore
we
Rock
have
isn't
there-
the greatest place to put a school with all the traffic and that.
The property we have out there, I believe, is mostly Lakewood, so.
Yeah, that was the other problem.
that's on the east side of Shore Rock. Almost back
The
to
property we
Bricktown.
can use is on the east side, the property we dedicated to conservation is on the west side.
Yeah.
I remember somebody came in with a plan.
Yeah, the property to the east side, I think potentially we have some.
Talk to Steve Ryman, he was looking at potential for commercial or industrial over there.
Didn't we
Other
also
than that,
leave,
we're-
didn't we leave a portion of that for a future firehouse too?
Massachusetts, didn't we?
No, Massachusetts, I thought we said something back earlier too.
I don't
That
know.
would have to be a bait station.
We're getting pretty low on acreage.
I know, I know.
The only other area, and I'll have to double check, what we own is potentially up here where, where
I
that road
was
is.
just gonna ask about Kennedy Boulevard.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
believe we
the
own
road.
some up there, but not in large quantities, but again.
Well, let's take a look, because, you know, there are two schools that just look like they're down in my neighborhood. And if we follow Menashe's idea about multiple schools close by, for you being able to share amenities, if we have any more property up there.
Right. I don't think we own much, I mean, just Crystal Lake is out there, but obviously that's out of the question.
The mayor's house is big enough to put a school in, I don't think he wants that.
Well, we take that attic back.
Because we were.
The only other.
I just ignore people.
Red light's not.
I can say anything to him, he pretends that I'm not here.
But the whole world is here.
I wish the whole world was here. I hope.
The only other area would be down, a little further south in the Oakline corridor area potentially.
Well, that's probably a beautiful place to locate a school too.
What area, I'm sorry?
Oak
A
Farm.
little further south in the Oakline
Gotta double
corridor.
check to make sure that any of these acres have that.
Well, yeah, we're not gonna do anything, I wanna identify what the potentials are.
Although they don't.
I think one of the issues.
I hope they will.
One of the issues we're running into there is, I believe there's a little, supposedly a good wetlands in that area, so.
Yeah, I know there is, and we probably can't, but let's take the time we have now. We know that we don't have a ton of property left. I think our biggest challenge is gonna be locating schools in town. So rather than have people nickel and dime us for individual parcels for residential, let's just identify what we have, see if we can't put together enough acreage to put in a school and see what goes.
If we could get one or two in that area, that would be good.
Well, yeah, I mean,
You're gonna have
2
a
acres,
population.
12 acre, we don't need the full amount. We can work on it, but I think a park over there is necessary for the folks in that part of town.
This area does have.
And locate a school adjacent to it would be ideal.
This area does have that large one approval for a campus.
Yeah, however that goes, you know, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that
That's a large.
there's already a lot of people, there will be more, let's get a park over there and maybe a school or two if we can.
Man, I'm sorry, I know you're talking 5:30, so I'm sorry I came at 5:30 on you. Do you know, have we resolved, do we have?
What we're gonna do is, we have a list of all the owners, the orange property, we need to obtain the green we have, the purple we own. We're looking to use the purple to swap for the orange. Tom and Ed are gonna get together, they're gonna contact personally each of the people on this list, there's only a few, and see if we can work through.
Thank you.
So hopefully by, first meeting in July, maybe we can get back and see where we're at with it. If we seem to have cooperation, we get done sooner, we can move ahead sooner.
I hope.
Okey-doke.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're supposed to be at a party. Get your breath first.
My potential, funeral, whatever.
Let's do number 3, so Mr. Furlow can get out for his, event.
It says 5:30.
Was Jeff gonna come in for number 3?
We asked him to come back, but
What color,
let me know.
what color is C?
Red.
I have a great suggestion, in the future, write on each one like C, D, and E, so we can match it.
What I do is I take them, put them back in, so I can reuse them.
Don't wait on
We're a very tight budget.
You collect everybody's folders and reuse them?
What do you do, throw them away? Come on.
We gave you nice new folders.
I want this
Sometimes
all-
they come back with all kinds of.
I want this all, paperless soon.
Number 3, it's number 3.
We're up.
I go,
We had discussed this a week or two ago.
Right there.
We asked, you to go back to Jeff to see if there were any concerns or whatnot. Mike, you were gonna see if they wanted to put an additional firehouse or something back there, or
Add the
expand?
land to the fire.
there was some talk about it, yeah. Yes. But I think that, they're pretty well set right now, other than, the property on Madison, and they were looking at a long range, possibly.
So if we asked them to take the property, they would return us down. Or would they?
I think they would.
Really?
I don't know. They got a new board member, so possibly it could change the, whole, what's going on with it.
And don't forget, we're doing a resolution tonight.
What's that?
We're doing a resolution to acquire that property,
Which resolution is that?
for the water quality.
Okay.
So, that's on 13 on the agenda.
Does that preclude us moving forward with the vacation request? That's what Mr. Pearl is here about.
No, we can discuss anything we want.
Oh, that's what he's here for. That's why I wanted Jeff. We'd asked him to review the incident. He
That
came back
was
with
that
no
little
concerns.
parcel in there.
All right, so how do you guys feel? Do we wanna?
Did he review it?
Yeah,
What
we
was
totally
that
found no
so far?
problems with it. You know, there is no other access there. There's nowhere those roads are going anywhere else. We'll refer it to Steve to start working it up.
See, that area out there, the commissioners are eventually looking at putting a training facility there.
So they don't want, the commissioners do not want us to give up the town property, is that what you're saying?
It's not gonna hurt the town property, I'm talking about their property.
Well, we're not talking about their property.
Nobody's asking for their property.
That's
We
right,
asked
but
them-
we talked about maybe asking them for some land at one time, maybe that's just by the wayside. But they don't have any problem, they don't have any problem.
Somebody asked the commissioners for land
Yeah, somebody mentioned it, I forget who it was.
from the
The,
committee?
the piece behind New
No,
Hampshire Avenue.
that's ours, we were gonna give them property.
Right, well, that's right, I'm sorry,
We were gonna give the commissioners property,
that's right.
that was the
Because
question.
that is the earmark for future, training
So
facilities.
they
So
do
the
want it.
additional spot would be beneficial to them.
It would,
Whatever you want.
I think that, probably be fair to Mr. Furlow, too. I feel that the land that they have now,
Then who has?
they put a parking machine. It would be sufficient without any more land, they wouldn't need any more land. I think that would be sufficient for their training.
Mr. Furlow wants the land to go to the private.
He's
So
not
they
asking
did.
for it.
He does.
This is just so that we can vacate some streets in there. We can't vacate the
They'll
streets
accept
he's
they'll accept
requesting.
anything they'll give you, they told me. Anything you give them.
All right, so there'll be no objection, then we don't, if they want the property and they have a use for it in the future,
Yeah.
then to lose the street access to that piece of property is
Fine.
negligible.
Fine.
Yes.
They're not gonna turn anything down.
There's two separate ones in there, right? And then there's this part, two totally separate ones. The first two pages are what we're voting on in resolution tonight.
I misunderstood you.
So, we had talked about the vacation a couple of weeks ago. I think that was the main stumbling block, is what we were gonna do about access to that piece of property. Are you okay?
Yeah.
What's the question? If the planning commissioners are gonna take the land? or-
No, if we wanna proceed with the vacation request.
I do not see what the engineer says, but if the engineer's fully okay with it, the neighborhood's okay with it, and the attorney's okay with it.
All right, so.
The attorney's
For
okay,
our next
and
meeting,
I'm the
I
same
want
way.
in writing from Jeff Stager, the fact, his review of the proposed vacation. And if he has no objections, are we okay with moving ahead?
I had no
If
objection.
the attorney's okay with it, and the neighborhood's okay with it,
Or how do we find out if the neighborhood's okay with it?
well, I thought that's what Jeff was doing, because it goes into that, what's it called, Stanford Hill?
Yes.
That's part of what
He
we
did
asked Jeff
mention
to do,
that.
to find
He
out
did
what
mention that.
Stanford Hill.
He did mention that.
Isn't that what we said at the last meeting, that Jeff was gonna?
I thought he was
should
gonna
be
be here tonight.
Yeah,
I
he should be
apologize.
Yeah, Jeff did mention that now.
All right. Should not happen.
It is not going through Stamford Hill. The question was to make a road from Stamford Hill going over the wetlands into this property. This property is independent from Stamford Hill.
But there's a road connecting the two.
But the problem is that DEP will not allow a road over the wetlands.
There's a potential road that could connect the two. But you're not proposing that, you're proposing an alternate means of egress and ingress.
No, the DEP will not allow to connect to Stamford Hill because there's access to all the roads to this area. There's access already. In other words, there's access from Chestnut to this property, and there's access from Stamford Hill to the property above. So the DEP rules, I actually sent,
That you can't improve the road if there's another access.
they will not
Same
allow.
issue having with Bond Street.
Will not allow them to the road, so there's no way to get to Stamford Hill. I mean, here's the stream, right?
Mhm.
So there's a property below the stream and above the stream. The property below the stream, you go through Chestnut. And the property above the stream is a road from Stamford Hill to the property above the stream.
Right.
So to make a road over the stream, from going from Stamford like that, they will not allow to make like a turnaround.
Right.
So basically, there's no access, so Stamford Hill can benefit from these roads.
What you're saying is you wanna put like a horseshoe road in. Right?
That was,
But Stanford Hill can't get to that road.
right. Stamford Hill cannot get to that road
Right.
because Stamford Hill has already access to their property.
So will access to this other parcel above the stream be from Stamford Hill?
There is a road connected.
And will that be the access to that future
Yes,
property?
yes.
So that's where the neighborhood would be, concerned. How many units are going out there?
Well, we made an agreement with the neighborhood. It's a public road, and we had an agreement, we signed the paper. It used the shul, and it was fine, and the zoning board.
Where was that paper, by the zoning board?
It was by the zoning board, yes.
And they have it?
The zoning board has it.
So that's what we need Jeff to show us. That's what I keep.
All right, so,
If you want, I can bring it over. I mean, I have a copy also, if you want, I can bring it over.
What I had asked the mayor last time, because it's so convoluted, if I may through the chair, is to have the engineer pull together the agreement, what happens here, why you can't do the work, and give it to us in one written normal report of what his opinion is. I guess we just didn't get it for tonight, but that's what we're waiting for.
Reggie, you'll have Jeff get us that report?
May I ask a question? Do we need to have Mr. Perlo's property in the sewer service area to do this development?
That's a resolution.
No, but this property is already in the sewer service area.
Okay, well, what's here is a request to
That
get.
the land was that they were talking about, that's for a different property. That's a property that's connected to this property, but not in this property.
So the controversy in this would be, if you were able to put that road over the stream to connect to that property above it, you wouldn't need to access it through Stanford Hill. But the DEP will not allow that to be built because there is an alternative access to it.
Right. We're not a road to go over, right, because there is, until from Stamford Hill, there is a road already, and the road, and Stamford is a public road, and right by the end of Stamford Hill is the right of way going.
We've already spoken with the neighborhood from Stanford Hill about potential
Connection,
use, and
that's
they're
what
okay with it.
we got the approvals from the zoning board to extend Stamford Hill Road, to extend it. And in other words, it's a public road, but they said, we don't want people going through our development. So we sat down, the zoning board sent us for arbitration, and we sat down with Rabbi Roth, he's one of the people that and we ordered a paper. I gave them a parking spot, they wanted a parking for the shul, they wanted money to use for the shul, and also for the meter, so we gave them, we all the value, we gave them like $100,000, and that was the deal, and nobody objected by the zoning board. I mean, actually, they came to say that they're for it, they said that they were happy with their ruling.
I don't understand something. If this isn't impacting Stanford Hill development,
It
it's
is.
not.
It's not right.
It's not, he says.
It's the
It
only way to
absolutely
do-
is.
The impact is the traffic going through the road in the middle of Stanford Hill to the new development above it.
There's two
That's the
parcels of
impact.
property on either side of the street. Rabbi Perlow is developing both parcels. One has access from Chestnut, one you would have to build a road over the street to get to the back parcel. The DEP says, we're not gonna give you a permit to build a stream over the a road over the stream, because you can access that back property if you drive all the cars through Stanford Hill.
Right, and even
So
though-
they made a deal with Stanford Hill when they came to the zoning board, where the neighbor said, yes, we know you're gonna build, I don't know how many houses, 10 houses up there, and we know that we're gonna have 10 houses worth of cars driving up and down in our neighborhood, and we came to an agreement. So when at the last meeting, that's one of the things that I asked for, can Jeff show us that agreement, and that this, that we're gonna ask you, will follow in line with the agreement.
The
that the
agreement
zoning-
should be here tonight, so we should see that.
That's what I thought it would
I
be.
was under the impression Jeff was gonna be here.
That's one of the parts of this.
Can I show you the email that I got from the rep?
That's okay. We'll,
I have the email from the agreement.
and so if you can get Jeff to email that out to us before the next meeting, so we know what's available.
And not only this part of the agreement, but all the portions, that we spoke to the fire commissioners, and they will take it. That, you know, if we do half of it, then we're just
I'll
gonna be.
talk to them
let's have it
tomorrow
all
if
one
you
time.
wish.
If they don't want it, we can turn it into a little pocket park.
There you go.
I'm not worried about
Just
that.
can't access
The
it.
issue, well, the neighborhood will be able to access.
No, you can't get to it, that's the problem. Otherwise, you're gonna do it.
I'll talk to the board tomorrow. I'll talk to Tom and talk to the board
I
tomorrow.
can give an easement road to access it.
Gotta go back to the zoning board.
I don't see them turning down any property.
No, I don't have to put this on it.
Then I'll leave it, you know what, I'll dedicate it as green, I don't care.
So let's just.
There's worse things than having a green lot in the middle of residential development.
There's actually, I mean, they're making a spoon basin next to the property, so eventually the spoon
So
basin.
the attorney was gonna look at it and make sure the fact that that this very parcel, we touched on our right for a while, and I was buying it back, but just the opposite was kosher. That was one issue that we had. The other issue was all these different convoluted parts with the DEP, with the neighbors, with the fire commissioner's office, engineering was supposed to report to us on that. That's what we need, that's what I need to make a decision.
Okay.
Harold, when Steve gets back, 3 of you sit down with Jeff, 2 of you sit down with Jeff. Maybe get the mayor involved in it, and make sure that all those questions are answered, so that we can either move forward. Okay?
Okay, can I ask one more question? In order to connect the fire department's property to this lot, to annex it, I have a strip over there, a 10-feet strip, it was a gore actually. So I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to give that land 10 feet by, like 120 to the fire department. I don't know, is it fair for me to ask if they give the township, if they give the fire department 10 feet, can I ask something, a piece of land next to the property for return or something, like an easement, something in the wetlands, or just, it's stretching it already?
It might be stretching it, but put in writing what you're asking, and then we can look at it.
Okay.
I'll look at any
I want to
question.
be reasonable,
I'm not
but
gonna
I'm
like
not
this
wrong.
answer.
If I may, through the chair, this is taking a long time because it's convoluted and things keeps changing. We need one full request so we understand the whole thing at one time. So our engineer and lawyer could look at it all at one time and give us advice.
Might
And
help
it
when you
keeps
sit down
moving.
with
It's very, very
Jeff to
difficult.
invite
That's why
Robert Pearl
it keeps,
You know, this way, if there's any questions, rather than having to.
it's all difficult to work with moving parts.
Rabbi, I just asked Harold to invite you to that meeting as well, so you, Steve, Jeff, and he can sit down together. If there are any questions, we get them answered right there and then, rather than having to either send you a letter or wait for a phone call.
That's
So
very reasonable, I appreciate that.
hopefully you can sit down and resolve all
This is
this.
very much. Thank you so much.
Go to.
I will, thank you very much for being so kind. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Bless you. Thank you.
You and I, before I talk to the board,
What's that?
good, good.
Look, if it was dedicated as a green space in the middle of a development, what's the big deal?
You're right.
Is Goldsmith coming tonight?
Supposed to be.
So if you stand up and look.
Yeah,
Contiguous.
I think it's 6.
All right, that's fine. Let's go to Always Stops.
Yeah, we can do that.
Mayor,
Oh, there's-
Not just walked back in. My son, yeah, take a phone call. So, my son just told me about an issue with my grandson. I don't have to leave, I just gotta make a phone call. And guide him.
Mayor, this could be mailed?
leave it for her, she said she's gonna address it after this one.
Okay. I always remember the first day I started here. No, I know. Next is, always stops. Frank, worked in a study.
You okay with you? Looks like it's just turning two-way stops into four-way stops.
Yep.
But her speaker said, no, I got to stop 2 more times before I get to town level.
But you might be
I'll live
safe.
with it.
You might be safe.
No, you'll have the obvious. Yeah, I'm okay with these.
Yeah,
You put them on for the next meeting.
Okay. All right, Newport. If you guys remember last meeting, they requested a vacation of this street, and I had said, okay, but I wanted the right-of-way for the street to be wider than normal to allow for extra parking. What I didn't realize at the time is that there were already utility poles along that whole area, and in order to make our request work, they would have to have removed all the telephone poles and move them, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. They also are going to relocate the street so that it lines up properly with Newport across the way from it. And some of the additional parking will come in from the fact that those driveways now are going to be that much wider, and that will allow for some more off-street parking. So I was going to remove the request that they make the street wider and then just go with the original vacation request so they can realign.
stay with the 32.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, I can't ask them to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to move it.
Maybe you can help with that?
Who?
The guy that you have on number
Oh,
one?
Kevin?
Maybe, I
Oh,
don't know.
good, yeah. Good. All right, you want Harold to set that?
Well, you need to hear from a couple other fellows.
You know what, more is good.
To bring it back?
I'm sorry.
Can I walk in first? Can I interrupt for a second? We have a problem with one of our, maybe Harold can say this, I might even be this one. We have a problem with one of our developments where there's an underground wire pole that went bad. JCPenney usually repairs it, and quite a bunch of people without power. JCPenney usually repairs it. The issue, the reason they don't want to repair it is because they have it listed as a rental community. So it's like one big lot. That's how they have it listed. But what happened, this is way back when, this is one of the.
Like homeowners association?
Harold, this is the one that we fixed up, because since it was like one big lot, there was a lien on all the houses.
So-
We just fixed it recently, Lakewood.
It-
But irrelevant, let's listen to the story.
But it didn't get fixed because they never paid that money.
Let's listen to the story first.
So, are they fee simple lots now?
They were subdivided, I believe, and they were fee simple, that's why I was gonna lean against all the lots from the mother lot. This is the one with the mother lot.
That's good, that's
But
good.
But now they're fee
Effie
simple.
has been calling me about it.
Now they're
saying,
fee simple.
This is a different situation.
Right.
So JCPenney says that if it's all one rental community, then it's the community's problem to repair it from the road to the houses. But if it's fee simple lots, then they take the responsibility up to each lot line, much like they do with any of our houses.
Correct.
They want an email from the town, that this is actually fee simple lots and not one big lot rental community. So is that something that, if you're familiar with this Lakeview, it's called Lakeview Development under
Correct.
88, is that something you would feel comfortable shooting off an email? To JCPenney that just says that you know that these are fee simple lots and not a rental community? So I was gonna ask if we could get the tax assessor to come back in, or I would call Ally to come back in, but if you know it, you could just shoot off an email.
I'm not sure of the lots.
The lots are fee simple. The issue was that there was one lien on the mother lots because it never was taken care of. But the lots were subdivided as fee simple, because that person sold their house, had a problem doing it. The
And
lots-
that's this parcel,
That's
that's
this
this property.
exact parcel. All the lots are fee simple. The
Yeah,
problem was there was a
good.
lien from before, but the lots are fee
So
simple.
I'm gonna call JCPenney, I'll tell them maybe whenever they're ready for it, we'll take a break and they'll do a quick email with people.
Sure.
Okay, you mind if I just call one of them? All right, that sounds fine.
Need the lots and blocks or the, whatever the reference
Lakeview
is.
Lakeview, it's called Lakeview Community under 88.
Well, don't Tony, we'll do Case Road while we're here.
I'm just gonna.
Well, bring this back.
I'm gonna, guys, give me 1 minute, I'm gonna be right
So
back.
bring that back.
Yeah, I'm at a public meeting, the township attorney will shoot you off an email when we catch a break in, okay?
Mr. Harold, you can do the email now, just find out who you have to send it to.
Yeah. Okay. Good, I'll let you know.
Number 6 is a street opening, a lady, her oil stuff went bad, and she wants to put gas in.
You're amazing.
Okay, so here's a question, if I may. With the letters we send out from town hall are no openings for the next 5 years. That being said, isn't the exception to that if you infrared repair it?
Correct.
So even though we send people, because I just got a phone call from someone in Somerset, we have a paving job coming up in Somerset, letter we send them out, which is a good letter telling us, get your stuff done right now, no openings in 5 years.
It's
We
working
don't-
very well, by the way.
Written, and it's working well, and but we don't put into the letter, we will allow red, infrared, because then people won't work on it, won't hop on it. But behind, we know that even within the 5 years, if they infrared it, pay them more money.
Nobody has ever called the engineer for gas and infrared that has been turned down.
Infrared, okay, good.
The only issue that people don't like is that they have to put a bond in place in
Pay
case
for
the
it.
infrared seal fails. That's one issue. The other issue that I think we're having is I think we're sending out the letters, and I had discussed this with you a little too late. I think we, for next year, we shouldn't give 4 months notice, we should give 9 months notice. 4 months is not
Well, like I
enough
said,
time.
I've only had, like, honestly, with all the roads we've done, I've had maybe 3 people that asked to open the road, and that's not bad.
Yeah, why don't we do this, why don't
And
we
this
send
one-
out a letter to everybody in town and tell them that, whether we're gonna pave it or not, just tell everybody we're gonna be doing this, get your
Well, a
stuff
general
done.
letter says.
You want the whole town to be under construction.
Right.
5 months from now,
Okay,
it's
just
gonna be
some
water
roads.
lines all
Right,
over.
but this, the answer to this letter, what I'm understanding is, Lakewood Township denied her to get this thing done. The answer really is, we're not denying you, but to get it done, you'll need to.
Just
use
tell
infrared.
her she has to speak to the engineer.
Well, I talked to her today.
Okay, good.
And I think that she goes, well, I said, everybody got a letter. I said, so you got a letter at your house. She goes, what, I have a rental unit, it's a rental house, and then everything went bad, and I just want gas because there's gas out there. I said, okay, but understand, there's certain criteria you have to meet in order to do it, and I said, I'll bring it to the committee, get their, approval on it.
If she infrareds it, fine.
Yeah, that's what
Mayor,
it is.
Mayor, can I ask a question on this matter that maybe will help us? Do you think that it pays for us to spend a few dollars to have an engineer or an attorney take this policy of New Jersey Natural Gas to DP, maybe engage the municipalities and figure out if there's a way that we can ask them to when we're redoing the road, every other utility company has it figured out besides the gas company.
Right.
They won't mow, because they say that when they do it, they gotta tie in, they won't do extensions because it's a safety issue. I'm not an expert on construction, but it's 2018, there's gotta be a safe
It's not,
way.
I've done this for years, and that's not the issue. I don't want to discuss it right now.
Okay, but maybe there's a way we could challenge them, and then this problem goes
Water
away.
company does it for us.
But we do
Water
send,
and electric doesn't.
No, what's the ladder, we're not hooked up anyway, just do it off the real.
we do send letters out to all of our
But
utilities.
but the problem is, the only ones that will not work with us is New Jersey Natural Gas, because they told me, you're saying it's not the issue, which is good, but they told me it's a safety issue. Well, I can't argue with them, I'm not.
You know why it's not? Because I've dealt with it and done that in other communities I've been in.
So Mayor,
Just so you know.
can we take a look at seeing if we would get somebody to try and figure this out for us and work with them to find a way, maybe our engineering department?
Excuse me, what's the safety issue, bowling?
They don't want to leave stubs at property lines.
They mowed my street.
The only, when you connect gas, the connect and disconnect is always at the main and the street. They will not allow a stub to come out. So if you want to disconnect the gas, you gotta open the street, go all the way to the main and take it out there. When you're ready to put it back, you gotta open the street again and plug it back in. That's the issue. Or mow it, however they do it. But here, they're giving us a very hard time. They're the only ones. No other utility company that I know of is opening the roads after we pave it.
The water company's been running a conduit, and the electric company that's underground also running a conduit, their property lines, and leave it there, so you don't have to open the street, just go right to the conduit that they left there.
Yeah,
Gas
it's a
company's not allowed.
curb stop. I
Curb
used to
stop.
do it when I ran
I'll
into
tell
the
you,
company.
I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
once we're on this topic, so the figure discount one, the answer's gonna be if you're infrared. Tom, I have another one, mark yourself a note, it's like Somerset Avenue, and another individual also wrote me, got the letter in the mail, Somerset, which is great, we're paving it, and we have to write him a letter also letting him know that if it's infrared, that's the only way they'll
Just,
allow
we'll
it.
have them send me a letter.
Got it,
Okay,
okay,
please, and then I'll
Got it.
handle it.
Take care, right,
Mayor, I know you're not gonna like this, but can I borrow Harold for 1 minute to do this, because this is what's holding them up from going out and doing the
Quick.
work.
Please.
Sure. You don't mind
Where
coming to
is
the
this gas line, where is it being,
You don't need me anymore.
on what street? Just give me a name.
You know, on the same topic, we have a forum still, so if I could just bring up one more issue, also water company.
Congress, please.
One of the repaving things that are gonna go on this year is Woodland Drive. It's one of the roads on your thing, we're redoing Woodland. I got a letter, which actually a copy of the letter, which we'll put it on the record.
I got phone calls on this too.
There's a guy who's actually, he's running water and sewer on Woodland. Woodland and Plymouth have historically, traditionally had, sewer septic. And there's someone who's paying for it, he's doing it, he's pulling down, here you go. There's a homeowner on Woodland who's pulling water and sewer down 200 feet. So he'd like to just be in touch with us and say, listen, hey, I'm doing this right now, this stuff in the permitting process, which, you know, with the utility companies. And once that's done, I mean, all he's telling us is, hey, you're gonna be repaving, just hold off whatever that is, in 2 months, whatever it might be, we can repave that all. So I said, submit it as a letter, and this way we'll put it on the record, and if we did
Put
right-
that street to the end of the list.
Of the list.
Make sure there's a note not to do anything about it.
Along that line, I've been getting phone calls on, at the sewer at least, the begging for sewer. The problem is, the water company won't do it because all will not want, they don't all want
The
to.
water company can mandate.
Huh?
The water company has the right to mandate.
Oh, you know, there's also an ordinance, that if it's running there, you have to tie into it, but they're not.
Right. Well, I got you here, before we start. Case Road, I would like to transfer the sidewalk project and do Case Road because it's in such dire straits, it's falling apart.
I think, I'm all for what you're recommending if Mayor, but I wanna see what
He's
Mayor
okay.
has to say about it.
Yeah, trust me.
For it.
Trust me, my ears are still ringing.
That's the road that the employees complain about.
I'm sorry?
Case Road.
Case
Case
road,
Road.
it's like, when you have your car driving on.
Yeah, and one more
All
thing,
right.
number 7, if I can.
Mayor's not here.
On the-
It's street lighting, let's
Okay.
wait for him.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen?
Thank you. I apologize, when, Mr. Seacar and I set the meeting, he said 6 o'clock, and that was probably 5 weeks ago, so.
It's only 6 o'clock. We kept you waiting, Chief, so that's perfectly okay.
So first, thank you for your time. My name is Bob Goldsmith from Green Mountain Road, Smith and Davis, and I'm representing, the entity Center 101 that is proposing, to work with the municipality, work with Lakewood on a redevelopment project. So, this is a project that was approved. It's about 90,000 square feet. And, the concept that we're offering and interested in working with Lakewood is this project, which I would suggest. I do a lot of redevelopment, that's all I do. But this is a transformational kind of project for the downtown. There's an open plaza here, and the effect is to reduce the square footage from 95,000 to about 75,000 square feet, so a 20% reduction in the size of the building. And it would be first-class office space with retail at grade to continue the feel of the downtown, which is important for downtown walks, for pedestrian comfort. This is the site of the block. This is, you know better than I do, but this is First Avenue, Second Avenue. This is where the building would be. Thank you. With the pedestrian plaza.
Turn it upside down. We're looking at it this way, actually.
Okay.
Oh, it doesn't really make sense.
That's
I'm
gonna
sorry,
fall
yeah,
off.
it's a pull-off. Yeah, we're looking at it the other way. We're actually there looking that way.
I'm in the back of the building.
That's the back of
That's
the
the back
building.
of
First
the
street
building.
here.
That's question.
Correct.
And this is a municipal parking facility. And the concept is to declare this block a redevelopment area. In 2013, the legislature amended the local redevelopment housing law so that you can do it either as an area with or without condemnation. The idea would be without condemnation, so no one worries about the possibility of eminent domain. It takes away that controversy. And what it would do is permit my client to work together with the municipality to figure out a parking system that would help our project and help augment parking for the public. And we met with the mayor, Mr. Sitter, and it was a very productive meeting. Clearly, the mayor communicated to us that there is a need for parking. If you can't sleep at night, I wrote a book on shared parking and parking. And shared parking is a very efficient way of maximizing the use of parking facilities. And by declaring it an area in need of redevelopment, it gives you, and I'll say this in front of my client, more control than you would otherwise have, but also gives you more flexibility so that we can sit down and come up with a program that provides additional parking to the community, helps us meet our parking demand, and gives you a first-class rateable on your main street.
In a quick synopsis, what would be the additional parking?
Pardon me?
In the quick synopsis, what would be the additional parking?
Well, there are a number of options. We brought in a parking consultant who's done some counts, done some analysis. One possibility is car racks here, because one of the issues is, do you want to build parking, structured parking, with a debt service obligation of 25 or 30 years if Uber, Lyft, and autonomous vehicles change the world? In fact, I've represented the parking authority in Morristown for 35 years, November, and we're about to build a parking garage, and we spent a good deal of time analyzing whether we should sell 25-year or 30-year bonds, whether the demand for parking will be there, whether we should structure the parking garage so there are flat floors, higher ceilings, and maybe exterior ramps so you can convert that into office or residential. We made the judgment that at this point we don't. We don't have to do that. It would also add substantial costs. So there is the possibility of possibly a deck, possibly lifts here to triple the size of this parking area. It's just a preliminary analysis to look at options. And the redevelopment statute just creates much greater flexibility to essentially negotiate with the municipality to achieve a deal that is economically feasible for us, but is compatible with the vision that you as the governing body and the planning board would have to kind of build a first-class building, probably one of the first-class office buildings in downtown Lakewood, I would venture to guess, since before the Second World War.
Yeah, along Fifth Avenue.
Yes.
We've got a few put up.
Yes, but this would be extraordinary.
Who would pay for parking? Who would pay for parking changes?
For parking changes, we would negotiate. I mean, to the extent it saves us money from having to build parking, I think realistically we would probably contribute or enter an agreement where we would agree to pay a guaranteed amount for a period of time, so you know for 20 or 25 years, so you know that you have a revenue stream to support the parking facility. There are a lot of ways of doing that. We could say that we'll contribute X amount of money up front to subsidize a portion of the parking facility, so it's not all on you. There's a possibility of redevelopment area bonds, where you can take a portion of the taxes from this project and dedicate it to support debt service for the public part of the garage. I mean, that's why there's a great deal of flexibility, but also control to come up with a deal that works for both of us.
So in other words, what you're saying is the taxpayers would help fund this project?
I would say no, not necessarily.
Because I know they're watching and they want to know, so.
No, I would say no. I mean, the beauty of this is, I don't recall what the taxes are now. There is the possibility for a pilot. That's a political and financial issue, but I've been having that conversation with mayors and elected officials for 40 years. If you're familiar with paying some
30 years I've been doing this, so I know.
So you keep 95% of that money.
Not in this town. Our school system is in dire straits, we're actually thinking about dedicating pilot revenue instead of ourselves.
And you can do that, and some municipalities choose to do
But,
that.
you know, one thing to take into effect too is you've already got the approval for this.
That's correct.
And you are not required to
For-
put in any parking.
for this.
They could put that up tomorrow.
That's right.
And they don't have to put another dime into it, any additional parking.
That is
Anything
correct.
that they would do here would be additional. Number one, the shrinking the size of the building, obviously it's beneficial because then you have pedestrian.
I just wanna make sure everybody
This would
understood
be,
that.
this
I
would be a
know
very
that part,
attractive
yeah.
feature.
I think it's excellent, it looks good, it's improving our downtown, I'm just concerned about parking lots are already maxed out.
Well, we all know that we have to do parking. We talked earlier today about potentially putting parking around here a little bit more. So the township is gonna be investing in parking one way or another to meet the demand for downtown. To partner with somebody, I think, gives us a benefit that, you know, we have a way to possibly pay for a big chunk of it, if not all of it. But in order to get to that point, we have to make the decision to go ahead and look at this one block as a redevelopment area.
And let me say that that's just the beginning of the process. There's no obligation on your part. We would certainly prefer to be able to achieve a mutually acceptable agreement. But that just creates the legal structure to proceed with negotiations to try to work out a deal. And the process is that it would be, the area would be designated as a redevelopment area. I think you may have already passed a resolution referring it. I don't know where that is in the process, but the way it works is the council passes a resolution asking the planning board to do a study to determine whether the criteria of the statute, the local redevelopment and housing law, is met. And I can tell you, I'm not your counsel, you have capable counsel, but there was a case concerning citizens of Princeton, which I was involved, which said that surface parking lots in a downtown like the Lakewood of Princeton, the South Orange, and Morristown, Perth Amboy, meet the criteria for an area needed redevelopment. That case was tried before the trial court, affirmed by the appellate division, and in a very well-known redevelopment case, the Supreme Court said we accept that decision and we cite it with approval. So, continuing with the description of the process, the planning board then makes a recommendation to the governing body whether it meets the criteria. I would suggest that it would meet the criteria. The governing body then votes on whether it meets the criteria. At that point, you declare the area in need of redevelopment, and I would suggest that that would be without eminent domain. Then we would work together to come up with the concept in terms of parking. The building is largely conceived and designed, and then there would be a redevelopment plan, which is the zoning ordinance that would permit us to build this project as designed. We still don't have the power to do it.
You can't build the building as is?
With a redevelopment plan, we would still need a redevelopment agreement, which would be a contract between us and Lakewood that would say how we're going to deal with parking, how we're going to pay for it, how you're going to pay for it, how we're going to contribute, what our contribution will be, what the projected taxes or pilot payments would be. And at that point, we would go for site plan approval with an as-of-right project because the redevelopment plan would have been negotiated and implemented, which would permit us to build this project knowing what our obligations would be in terms of parking and how we would assist the municipality in augmenting parking, and we proceed and build the project.
The building is downsized, but it would look like this, is that correct?
It would look like this.
Okay, now, is this the property between First and Second?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about?
There's a pizza shop on the corner there, there used to be, I don't know if it's still there.
That's the current, this is the current, existing division over here.
Oh, yeah. That's still a pizza shop?
It used to be.
There's a traffic light coming up there now.
Yeah. That's not enough. Well, is that commercial on the first floor and
Yes.
corporate on the second, third floor? or-
Office on the upper level, so 1, 2, 3, 4 levels above
It looks
grade.
nicer than what's there now.
Dramatically nicely, it'd be transformational. By the way, just out of interest, my father was a bellhop at the Lincoln Hotel
Which
before
one?
the Second World War.
Really?
Which hotel?
Lincoln? Before the Second World War.
I would check it out.
to you.
No, I wasn't, I'm not.
You're not, he is.
Do you remember the Lincoln Hotel?
Pardon?
Do you remember the Lincoln Hotel?
Yes.
Hotel? Yeah. I have a picture of my dad standing in front of it. Yes. With the bellhop uniform.
All right, gents, do we want to consider moving forward with this? Now, we're not obligating the township to anything.
Basically-
I want to make sure
Your
everybody
council can
understands.
advise you of
I
that.
feel
but-
better now because basically what we're doing is the people that are filling that parking lot, the people are probably going to come back and
Yes.
work.
A
So we wouldn't
significant-
have that much of an issue. We have to do something about more parking.
Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted, the gentleman to come in and talk about this. The building's going up, it's needed downtown. I much prefer the redesign, I think that, like you mentioned when you spoke, it could be the basis to redo the entire downtown and
It could be a
from just a
catalyst.
residential, commercial to a residential, to a commercial,
redevelopment.
professional area.
Well, we could certainly, we would do it in conjunction with you. We haven't hired a planner, but, we could agree on a planner that you're comfortable with, that I would recommend. And then you would have your planner review and finalize it to your satisfaction.
Well, the best way we can improve on the parking without taking taxpayers' money. I think that's the best way to go. I don't think they want to put any more money out.
Mayor, may I just ask a question, Mr. Copeland? The benefit to the developer for declaring this a redevelopment area is what? How does the benefit to the
Well,
developer benefit?
it lets us negotiate a parking system with you that generates more flexibility, number one. So we can negotiate, again, we normally have a local land, the building code of local public contracts law. The redevelopment statute takes those off the table. So that's-
Yeah, because you said we weren't doing eminent domain, so we're not taking any additional property.
That's right.
No, we're not going to go into the buildings next to it. We're just doing this to look at our parking and theirs.
So
Buildings,
So that flexibility is enormous, to be able to sit down with you or your partner and work out, and the mayor and whoever else may be involved in the committee or the business administrator, what the deal should be. So it's a wide open negotiation as it would be in the private sector. So that's the first piece. The second piece is, it does permit a pilot. It doesn't mandate it.
Powered for an abatement.
Well, it's the same thing. I
No,
mean,
no, it's not.
it-
An abatement's 5 years, no, powered for up to 30 years.
That's a short, well, actually, one is called a long-term abatement, one is called a short-term abatement. The long-term abatement, yes, is a pilot payment with taxes. That's what the legislature calls it. It really isn't an abatement because you're making payments to the municipality. You're not making tax payments.
And the zoning is off, it's controlled, the zoning in the area
It
is now
is controlled by the redevelopment.
So the by right is just a courtesy review by planning board.
Well, it requires site plan approval, so it's more than just the statutory capital review. It is a substantive site plan review, but it's an as-of-right project, so.
Because
so the
zoning
planning-
is controlled by the redevelopment
Redevelopment
plan,
plan.
like Cedar Bridge.
So,
but we have the Franklin Street development right down the street from it. We have different, examples of it now, so it wouldn't be the first time we're doing something.
There's a beautiful building.
yeah. We appreciate it.
Honored.
Mayor, you like it?
I do.
Let's go ahead with it then. Is everybody all right?
Yeah, fine.
Yes.
All right. So,
Any
Steve
other
gets back, all the questions will come once we sit down and.
You
put this
leaving
first
a
thing up for
space
more
for the
money.
guy with the coffee? You
Say
got,
it again?
at one place, the guy with the coffee, he wants to just.
The roaster.
Huh?
He's gonna have a cafeteria in the middle, in the open area.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get this going so you can start on the next building.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, thank you.
I look forward to working with you.
Same here.
Thank you.
Do me a favor, before you leave, just turn the pictures around and show them to the camera so anybody who's watching has an idea.
One at a time. It's good to know.
That's explained?
No, just that's the old building,
That's the
that's the approved building up top,
Approved building.
What's construction time once you start?
and that's the proposed building.
I would say.
Our goal is at 12, one second.
Okay, thanks very much.
Our goal is from day one construction to occupancy 12 months.
Could be 18.
And you're not gonna tear up our new Clifton Avenue, are you?
No, we're gonna go from the back.
Okay, good. We might have a problem then. Not me, but all the other store owners.
Good answer. Thank you all very much.
All right, guys, get home safe, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want me to comment on Case Road?
No, we're gonna take the sidewalk money and pave the road.
They don't want
Because
to
they
come.
don't want you to come.
They don't want to hear my opinion.
No, I wanted the lake lighting, you to be here.
I think that, thank you, the Lake Carasaldo path lighting with the solar, I think is a super fantastic idea. Do you have any idea what it will cost?
$23,514.
That's the
Tony
cost.
went out and got a lot better deal.
That's fantastic.
Well, we would do the, labor ourselves.
I think that's amazing.
It's street light money, is that
I
okay?
think this is a fabulous
I
idea.
think it should go from streetlight money, yes.
I think it's a fabulous idea. Can you just ask Tony to check something out also in addition to this? This is a fabulous idea.
That's all three of those pretty good.
Great idea. I love it. I didn't even know this concept exists, but I didn't know it exists. Could you ask Tony to check out the following?
Sure.
From Sharon Court to Pine River is a township property that I had Albert pave a path through it, that everyone walks through it at night. And this is such a phenomenal thing. We always ask one of the neighbors, leave the outside light up over there, et cetera. If we could put another, this township property, if we could put another 2 or 3 of these along there as well.
You're
it'd
talking
be
about
very
the
helpful.
northeast?
No, this is the Sharon Court ends in a cul-de-sac, and we have a township detention basin.
Yeah.
And they made a very nice pathway around the detention basin to get to that development.
We're gonna end up with a few requests.
It's
like
beautiful,
this.
it's a beautiful
There's a few
thing.
that we have to
These
turn down.
lights last for 3 nights without being recharged if they had.
I love the idea, and this would really, there are people that.
He did shop around for these lights, let me tell you.
So at the end of, the pathway at the end of Sharon Court,
I'll send
have a
them
look
all.
at it. We don't want it very much lit, right now it's pitch black.
You just have to keep it safe.
Keep this stuff to keep it safe, right? We don't want it very brightly lit, in the neighborhood.
I think it's long overdue. I
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
I still wanna.
We
have-
tried to do this 3 or 4 times and we never got solar. That's
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Pulling the wires would have cost a fortune, that was a problem.
I had a number of people come to me and request this.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead with it. Let's do property real quick so we can get on to executive.
Property is, I think,
Light blue.
Light blue or turquoise?
Blue.
This one?
Yes. Turquoise?
I don't know what it is.
Blue.
First one is block 770, lot 1.
Didn't the mayor? I think the mayor had said that we wanted to hold off and see, before we did anything else, see what would be good for schools and private parks.
Mm-hmm. So this is 9/10 of an acre in the middle of
Yeah.
encumbered property.
Yep.
Well, tax assessor is saying either 195,000 or $1 million. I'll consider it for $1 million. A lot of it's wet though, and you don't know what they can and can't build on it.
In Lakewood, they can do that.
Right. Only if we let them.
Mayor, I think I agree with you, put it out at the higher number. If nobody bites, you take it back and see what happens. It's not that expensive to put it out, right? Doesn't cost us that much to prepare an ordinance to put it out.
No.
Katie, let's see if we get any bites.
Well, the
What's your publication cost?
The notice that goes in the paper is about $500, and on public sale, you can put it in twice. It's minimal. I mean, that's only $1,000 when you're talking about $1 million
Yeah.
property, but.
I don't know, I might spend 1,000 for the outside chance of getting $1 million.
We want to send the guy a letter saying that that's what we're going to do. We want to just put it out since it's an open bid
I think we
anyway.
should put it out.
No, send them a letter first, because he says.
I meant, that's what I meant to say.
Send them a letter first, if he says, you know, I'm not paying that kind of money, then the open call, the one goes to the voters.
All right, send them a letter, tell them to put it out for $995,999.
Sounds good for me.
Okay. The next one is block 175, lot 62.
This is off the Kennedy Boulevard, that's not improved, right? Is this one of the ones that we were talking about? Or is this in conjunction to the ones that we're doing tonight?
Actually, right next to it. See?
So let's hold off on this till we sell the others and
Just
see
here's,
what we
okay,
get.
just here's the other two right here. All right, hold off.
You guys agree?
All right.
So I think there was a request for that, we decided to hold off. There's a third parcel out there, we want to see what we can
Third
generate.
one, yeah.
The two are already, we already did the ordinance and the, public notices out, so.
Right, next
Set
is
for
the,
May, information.
okay. So we'll bring it back after May 10th.
And that's the one, the private auction.
Right.
Yeah, this is gonna be the auction town office with the adjoining that can purchase.
All right, next one is block 251.03, lot 22.
What can he do with this?
Nothing really, man. I have no idea.
He lives right across the
He
street.
said
That was-
he wants to buy it, it's personal, you know. It's right across the street from where he lives.
Property cannot be zoned into utility. First of all, is it an undersized lot?
7,800 square foot.
Yeah, I always says it's undersized for the arts
It's an undersized lot, I think it can only be sold to the adjoining property owners.
And if it's,
He's not an adjoining, it says.
No, he lives across the street, he said.
Yeah.
I don't think we could sell it. I mean, we could, but then it has to go up, if you sell somebody a property undersized,
Probably have to go to them first, and then him, if they didn't buy it.
but don't forget, if you sell it to them and you don't put restrictions on it, you can go to the board and say, the town sold me a piece of property, nobody else wanted to buy it, I have a right to build on it. That's the law, right? That's MOU.
Well, as long as
he's
they give
across the
variance.
street, he's not an adjoining owner, so we can't sell it to him.
Okay. Next one is block 536, lot 73.
This property that isn't this property that, what's it called, one from Head Start, or this is?
No.
Well, that's what I'm looking at right now.
No, that was block 100, in one, I think.
Is this the lot that we leased out to LCSW? We did something with this lot.
LCSW is down by Public Works.
The
Cedar
public-
Bridge.
We're out
On
on
Cedar
Cedar
Bridge.
Bridge Avenue.
Cedar Bridge, this
Cedar Bridge
is
Avenue.
also on Cedar Bridge.
Cedar Bridge right next to Seasons, in the firehouse.
Right, it's down by Public Works.
Down by Public Works. So,
Yeah, this is right down by Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard.
I know, but I remember looking at this for something.
I don't know.
Which one is it?
It's like right where that liquor store is.
Right.
It's right next to it,
Hang on, this is,
Right
this is
next to
what,
Mother Pearl?
is this the, where's the Head Start site?
That's what I asked.
To
The
the
Head
over.
Start site is further down
Is
by.
this right next to the cemetery?
No, the Head Start site is down there by.
Further over.
This is only 13,000
It's
square
further
feet.
east. I thought it was too, Minaj, but it's further east. This, I think this is next to,
Liquor store.
no, I think it's further east than that.
It doesn't
No, the
show.
liquor store's
Used to be the
I
plant
know,
store.
this is right, well, sorry, it used to be a plant store, it's a florist. It's a gable building, it used to be a florist, and now it's a house store, like, kind of faucets and knobs and that kind of stuff. That's over there, and then Mother Pearl, Southside Sandwich Shop is on the other side.
Right.
I think that we ought to wait valuable piece of property. I don't know who's requesting it. It's like the property owner next door that's requesting it because they have a business there, they want to keep the business there. I don't see who's requesting it, that's one thing. But if it's somebody that just wants to purchase the property on spec and maybe build themselves something there, well, it's a nice idea. The county is gonna be redoing Cedar Bridge there with, I don't think we should give that lot away just yet till we get finalized what the county plans on doing in Cedar Bridge there. You know, put up a walkway and a crosswalk and all that kind of stuff. That's my thought.
All right, drop it.
Again, it doesn't say who requested it. If the request was for.
I don't think we should know.
You know, I have it, the guy's name is, I have it, his name is Evan Dana. He's been trying to buy property from us for a couple of years.
Does he own one of the businesses next door?
No. Next is, I did a little investigation for a property for a school over by the old public works facility. Take a look at it.
And this is the back of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not the back of it. I think we may have a little issue putting a school up right there. There you go.
Talking about environmental, or what are you talking
No,
about?
there's nothing.
Neighborhood.
This is not behind Public Works, this is the corner of East Ninth and Lawrence.
Neighbor's gonna tell you. They didn't even want to park.
That's right, they didn't, you're right.
Most of it is staying open, I mean,
No, they didn't want, well, I wanted to put a park there, they didn't want to.
They don't want
we're
it.
gonna have to start buying land in Jackson for schools then.
No?
Go by the Jackson School.
All right, that's it, Tom?
That's it for the
All
regular.
right, can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion.
Moved by Mike, second by Mayor, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,